Starting 502 podcast. We are back and better than ever. Press Meyer, Jake. Blaine, it is a beautiful... I'm sweaty. Why am I sitting outside sweating?
Man,
did you notice that?
No, but it's a big episode, man. Of course you're sweaty. You know, knees weak, palms are sweaty.
There's vomit on my t-shirt already.
Right, exactly, man. Great
Mother's
episode.
Espaguetis. Already a great episode. Joe Tipton joins us later in the show. We want to talk a little TBT, though, because it's right around the corner, Jacob.
We're coming up on it, man.
It's becoming a summer tradition. It's becoming a staple for us here in the Meyer and Lane households.
Yep.
And, I mean, U of L's got a squad this year. U of L, listen to me.
Yeah, right.
The Ville has a squad this year, and we want to talk a little bit about it. Jacob, give me that roster rundown one more time. You just said it right before we came on.
All right,
give it
let's
to me.
Do it. Roster
Here's what
rundown.
the roster looks like as of 8:27 p.m. on July 2nd, 2025.
Thank you for the timestamp because you never know. Things change very quickly. But as my calculations have it, Louisville is looking at a 9-man roster at this point that includes potential starting five of David Johnson, Jay Scrubb, Russ Smith, Earl Clark, Montrezl Harrell. You're talking about their 5 former NBA players in that starting five. Those are 5 guys that have been drafted into the NBA playing in your starting lineup. The addition of Jay Scrubb, we're going to get into this in a minute. I think it's huge. And then off the bench, it's a little bit of a different approach this year. You got a mix of Louisville guys, but some new names as well. David Sloan, who is a Taylor County native. He played with Quentin Gooden down at Taylor County High School. Went on, played at Kansas State, played at East Tennessee State. Was another school in there as well in the mix. I can't remember exactly where, but was a very productive college player. And then on the bench, you also have 3 former guards who were crucial pieces last year, and Peyton Siva, who will be kind of that player coach, and then Shane Bohannon, who is back for his 3rd season, as well as Chris Jones back for his 2nd after a nice run off the bench. So Presley, I don't think they're done. I think they're going to probably add another body or two. They've played with 10 or 11 guys the last 2 years. I think you're likely going to see another big thrown in the mix there. Look out for a guy like Chinanu Onuaku, potentially. I don't know anything. I'm just throwing names out there. There's former cards like Steven Enoch and Naz Mahmoud. I don't know what those guys are up to, but Louisville needs another big man in the fold. Maybe they go outside of the family for that. But overall, Press, I think this lineup is pretty damn good. 5 former NBA players in your starting 5, 6 overall if you include Peyton Siva off the bench. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I mean, last year you get knocked out by La Familia, and you can't have that happen again.
No,
right?
No more Spitgate. Spitgate 2.0 can't happen.
Louisville, they loaded up this year, and if there's one addition that I think that people are sleeping on right now, it's the addition of David Sloan.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't know about this guy just because he didn't play really in the state, right? So he played a decent amount at Kansas State, don't get me wrong, but then transferred to a smaller school, played quite a bit for his last 2 seasons. But I got a chance to see David Sloan at Trey Moses' celebrity basketball game, and look, I get it, right? There were guys that have never played competitive basketball. It was a whole slew of things, right?
Right.
But I mean, my man, I think he scored like 35 points in the second half. When he wants to turn it on, he was making shots from all over the court, getting to the basket at will. He's a really impressive piece. A guy that I think that fans he's going to be taken in as one of our own this year. Taylor County player, shout out Richard Gatewood. That's a deep cut right there.
It is. Yeah, right. Well, it's funny you said that. I was just looking at his profile. He played at 22 Foot Academy, where Richard was a coach, I believe, his final year after they had been at Taylor County. Mm-hmm. A lot of ties to Louisville. But I think it's just really interesting, Louisville going outside of the family a little bit with David Sloan, and then obviously with Jay Scrubb. And I think Montrezl Harrell, unlike last year, the difference this year with this team is Montrezl Harrell is playing basketball professionally. He's played with the New Zealand Breakers, I believe, is the team that, or maybe it was Adelaide 36ers, I believe, so he played for over in Australia. Played extremely well, just re-signed a contract there. He's playing in the Big 3 this summer. was the player of the week this past week in the Big Three. Montrezl Harrell is built for that league. But Montrezl Harrell is in shape. Montrezl Harrell is motivated. And last year, I think those were two big things for Montrezl Harrell that we didn't see. I mean, no, don't get me wrong. Montrezl Harrell always plays with a chip on his shoulder, Press. But how many times did we say, you got to get Montrezl out of the game last year when we were sitting next to each other because of rebounding and just, the being out of shape and lack of, I don't want to say effort, but just lack of being in shape. This year, you don't have that. And you add in guys that are playing professionally. Not only that, but fighting to get back in the NBA. David Johnson signed with the, you're going to really test my Australian basketball here. I believe it is the Tasmanian Jackrabbits is the team that David Johnson signed for. Hold on, let me do my research here.
You just pulled Tasmania Jackrabbits out of your ass,
no,
you
that
deserve
is
some kind of award.
The Tasmania Jack Jumpers. I'm sorry, I was slightly off, but that's who David Johnson. Yes, the Tasmania Jack Jumpers is who David Johnson is going to be playing for this 2025-2026 basketball season over
You're an absolute sicko.
That's the NBL for you, man. That's becoming one of the top leagues in the world now, and David Johnson's going to go back to Australia to try to make it into the NBA. Obviously, Jay Scrubb was a late second-round pick. He's been on two-way contracts, has dealt with a lot of injuries during his short career. But Jay Scrubb is a guy, Presley, that I think is a dark horse MVP in this league. He is going to thrive in a game and setting like this, the up and down, the ability to go get a bucket. That's the move, in my opinion, that no one is talking about. And you know what? I just realized we missed a player on this team. Ray Spalding. We missed Ray Spalding, the 7th NBA player on this roster.
Yep.
So you're talking about 7 NBA players. This team, Presley, should be one of the favorites to win the entire tournament. Obviously, they've got to get past some of the devils on their shoulder, the La Familiars of the world. Obviously, the year before they lost in devastating fashion as well, and they kind of overcame that last year. But there is a lot of work to do, and I think with Montrezl Harrell, a healthy David Johnson, and then Jay Scrubb, that's the best big three in this tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, no doubt about that. Look, I would be lying if I said I'm super familiar with even like La Familia's roster, right? Like, I know there's been some shuffling, some players controversially went against
YouTubers.
Yeah,
well, we got YouTubers, but they also have NBA players. Willie Cauley-Stein, the Harrison Twins, Archie Goodwin, Jester, not so much an NBA player as he is a YouTuber. 3.1 million subs on YouTube is pretty damn impressive. I will say this, Press. Okay, this is a tangent, but what they just did was so incredibly smart. La Familia adding a YouTuber, regardless of whether he can play ball, he's going to bring eyeballs from that fan base, and that's a big deal for TBT.
Yeah.
Maybe this is me saying, hey, Luke Hancock, if you need a 12th man in 2026, I'll get in the gym, man. I'll get in the gym. I'll start working on my jumper. Get back to being able to touch net. I can't touch the rim. I can't touch the backboard, but I can touch the net. And I'll get out there. We got 15,000 Twitter followers. That's, it's not a million, but it's something, Luke. I'm ready. Put me in, coach.
I will hold a clipboard and happily not run past half court one time. That would be my contribution. And then get mad at everybody else. Chris Jones, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Exactly. Why don't you shoot that shot?
Yeah, shoot that shot, Chris. So my one concern, right, because we don't want to just blow smoke up of everybody's ass the entire time, right? Because Louisville has never been to a Final Four, and if they win this year, they have first rights of refusal to play a Final Four and a championship game in the city of Louisville. Slight twist this year, right? I don't know. Have you heard about this, Jacob?
No, I did not know that. So the home court,
they have home court advantage through the entire thing. They will play in the city of Louisville, not necessarily Freedom Hall though, for the entire time.
Where are we putting the championship? At Valley High School? Where Eastern High School?
It will be at Bellarmine if it is played in the city of Louisville. How about that? Because there's some kind of tractor pull or something.
Yeah.
State fair maybe.
Show. It's a state fair for sure.
It's got to be a state fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't like that. Knights Hall. I'm sorry.
I think no, forget Knights Hall. Spalding University.
Okay. You got to sit at that level upstairs where no one can see anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why don't we just play it at the Dirt Bowl? I mean, come on now. I mean, I'd rather play it there than at freaking Spalding or at
just
Valley
keep it
High
going.
School.
Open hoops back up. Let's go.
Let's get hoops back.
We're playing this thing at hoops. We're playing this.
USBA.
We're all watching from the track at Southeast Christian. Sorry.
Yes,
okay, go ahead.
There we go. No, but this team, though, we didn't even talk about Ray Spalding. You saw Ray this past weekend wearing sweatpants playing in the 24 Reasons game. But look, the thing I'll say about Ray Spalding is Ray was in the NBA at the highest level playing of his career when he ruptured his Achilles 3 years ago. So this is a guy who has battled back from injury. I would be willing to bet he's not the Ray Spalding that we are used to seeing. He's going to be much more, on the floor, much more probably, kind of a more face up jumper and running, rim running a little bit. But, he's going to be a different player. But even him, at 28, 29 years old, is somebody trying to get back into the world of professional basketball. He's going to be hungry. Not even mentioning a guy who is supposed to have played for this TBT team for 5 years now, and that's Earl Clark.
Right.
He's been on every iteration of this team, and every year he has something come up and can't play. But this year, Earl will return. How old do you think Earl Clark is, Presley?
34.
He's 37 years old.
By the way, that was my Earl Clark impression. Sorry.
Yeah, I appreciated that. I cannot believe that we are going to see 37-year-old Earl Clark. Like, it doesn't feel real. This will be kind of like his send-off into retirement with Louisville fans. Like, I'm excited for the moment to see Earl back out there. And look, he's still playing at a very high level. He's played in Puerto Rico. He's played in the Philippines. He's playing in Big Three right now. Earl Clark is still a damn good basketball player, and he is a guy who can guard, who can put the ball on the floor. He is the perfect kind of quintessential 7th, 8th man in this tournament. He's obviously got a lot of experience and IQ, being older in his days. He's an NBA champion, 2 NBA champions on this roster, I must say. Earl Clark, Montrezl Harrell. So I overall, like, if you put a gun to my head right now and you said, where will Louisville be eliminated? I think Louisville makes the Final Four. I really do. Yeah. Unless there's a game where Russ Smith tries to take over late and is just ice cold like he was against the team that Louisville lost to in 2023. We've seen him try to force things. We've seen, the games where Chinanu can't hit a free throw to close the game out. This game is all about that Elam ending and being able to be hot when that hits. And I think between Jay Scrubb, Montrezl Harrell, Russ Smith, David Johnson, who arguably was Louisville's best player last year, Press. I just don't see how this team falls without having just a really, really bad showing early on.
Yeah, so I was going to get to, about the not blowing of smoke up asses. I think that the obvious flaw on this team is the lack of shooting. And especially as somebody who is, after one season, has become accustomed to shooting a lot of three-point shots. Right. That's what you see a lot early on in this tournament. We saw last year, Jacob, you and I were sitting there watching Bellarmine up by 16 or something in the first half.
Just fucking running offense, just playing. They were out there running plays, running sets. Yeah, running sets.
Trez is out there looking like James Harden looking for a trade. And
Russ is in hell. Get me out of here.
Throwing shit up. We've used every timeout in the first quarter. We can't figure out Bellarmine
against 9 plumbers and firemen, 9 guys that have full-time day jobs. And my man at night.
My man, what is his name? This is going to sound super stupid to even say, but the tall white kid that was at the presser.
Yeah, that's all of them. I don't remember any of their names, but it was a rough go.
My guy, I mean, he was literally running pivot tables on a Friday, and he was out there ripping his sweatpants off and just dominating on a Saturday.
Right, setting screens and throwing, backdoor cut passes like it was nothing.
Yes,
but that's what makes this tournament so much fun, though. It's 9 of us out there against Louisville, and we're running Southeast Christian plays.
I was going to say, we're exaggerating just a little bit. I suck. I am awful.
But the joke is they look like us. The Bellarmine team last year looked like us. The team that Louisville opens against, I believe, in round 1 they're going to be, much better than what 9 of me and Presley's would, but they're a Drew League team out in California, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So you're talking about guys that are going to be semi-professional basketball players that show up to play in this game against, 7 former NBA players. I mean, that's what makes this tournament fun, though, man. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be in front of 6,000 people.
Yeah, so what excites me the most going into this tournament is that I think that the Ville team just because of the way that these things go.
Yeah.
Like this is year 3 of this. This is like year 6 of Louisville trying to get a team in it. Year 3 of us taking this seriously. Each year you've seen improvements in certain areas. But I think what you're going to see is a lot of just kind of casual feeling out of each other as you normally do in the first halves of these games. And then you'll see, the competitive instinct kind of take over in the second half. But I'm looking forward to a lot of set plays, set pieces in the Elam Ender. That's one thing that Louisville has lacked is like year 1, it was like, all right, Russ Smith, just don't shoot it from half court. Let's go. Then last year it was like, okay, there's a little bit of like Chris Jones taking you off the dribble. Yeah. Montrezl Harrell posting up. We're taking defense very seriously all of a sudden. This year is the iteration of, okay, you have Luke Hancock like seriously in the fold. Shout out Christy Banta. Like you have legitimate staffers on this team.
It's becoming
now.
a full organization.
Right,
like it's no longer just we want a team. Like this is now, just short of full-time employees. Chrissy is, a local media personality out here running the operations of this team day to day like it's a full-time job. It's a serious ordeal. Right. And the thing is the other big thing on this team this year, and the reason why I love Luke being the head coach is the melding of personalities. You talked about it last year. You have 7 former NBA players on this team. That's 7 guys who want the ball in their hands, 7 guys that have an ego, and not in a bad way, but believe that they are the creme de la creme of basketball and that they are just their opportunity away from going back to the league. And that's true for Jay. That's true for Montrez. That's true for David Johnson. I think Russ and Peyton, that ship has sailed, right? But I do think for this team, and same with Earl being 37 years old, this is purely for Earl Clark coming back to be celebrated by Louisville fans. And he's in jail, but man, can we get Terrence Williams back for just one? I don't know how that ovation would go, to be honest. But for me, dude, that would be insane to have Terrence Williams back with Earl Clark. But anyways,
yeah,
I love this team.
One day, I was just gonna say, I like to think about if we just keep building upon this thing, especially if Louisville finally breaks through, they get to the Final Four, they win a championship game. I'm already interested in what Trey Lewis and Damian Lee are going to look like on this team. I'm interested.
Trey Lewis is a rapper now, or a gospel singer. My man isn't playing in TBT anymore. But Damian Lee, Lee's on the other side of retirement. He's probably one more year away from being done in the league.
Yeah, which is
perfect.
Next year,
bring him back.
Next year, I want to see the 3-inch vertical on his jump shot.
Let's get Carly Jones. Look, though, in all honesty, Louisville has 3 big players that they have not tapped into this year who would make Louisville instant favorites to win this thing by a mile, and that's Malik Williams, Carly Jones, and Jordan Nwora. Jordan Nwora was back in town this week, and I'm just like, man, I know you play for the top team in Turkey, and you're trying to get back in the NBA, but, dude, you could average 50 in this tournament if you played. Jordan Nwora on this team. And Malik Williams is one of, if not the top big man in the G League right now, has been dominating, has gone up and down between the Raptors, the Miami Heat the last couple of years. He's another guy. And then not to mention, you have Steven Enoch out there who I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of guys that you could call on and this continue to grow. But the last thing that I'll say on this is I think if Louisville can keep egos in check, particularly with Jay and Montrez, those are the 2 guys who are most likely to be back in the NBA. I think that if they can corral that and they can keep Peyton healthy off the bench, Ray plays up to what he's capable of, I think press this team as a Final Four team. And that's not being exaggeratory or hyperbolic. I think purely based off of what did Andrew Zolden told us 2 or 3 years ago. It takes a few years of trial and error to get it right. Year 3, I think this is by far going to be the furthest that Louisville goes. They may not win it all, but I think this is a Final Four team for Louisville.
Yeah, I think just kind of a final word here. I think that you have to consider that this is it's a lot of buildup with no actual games being played, and then all of a sudden the ball is tipped and it's you lose and you're done. You lose and all this buildup has been for
nothing. And these guys, the thing that I think most people don't realize or don't think about is these guys don't get paid unless they win. There's no money being shelled out under the table. They're doing it on their own accord.
They make a little something. Luke confirmed that on the radio last week.
maybe sponsor payouts of whatever's left because they got to pay for their flights, their hotels. Like they have a budget that they have to pay for all this, and that $1 million is the prize. That's what these players come here for. Okay, maybe they make a little bit of money, and for most of these guys, they don't need it, right? Like Montrezl has made $50 million in his NBA career or some shit like that, and Earl Clark played in the NBA for 10 years, and David Johnson, he's certainly not, NBA rich, but played in the NBA for a few years. So these guys, and Jay Scrubb, these guys have made money. It's not about the money, but that's still an important factor. These guys are doing it because not only do they want to win, but they want to represent for Louisville and do that as well. The last thing I'll say, I was going to make this point, is I think that you talked about like what this can continue to be. TBT can be a way to bridge the gap unofficially between the university and a fan base. This could be the outlet where we eventually get Rick Pitino back in Freedom Hall. If one of his former players like a Earl Clark or like a X, Y, and Z Preston Knowles comes back to play and Louisville's in a high level, obviously if it's in New York or whatever, you would see Pitino there. But I think that this has a means to bridge gaps with university, with the fan base. And I think that that's what's so important kind of in between the games is just the reconnection with the fans. We saw it last year in the media room, a very intimate setting, getting to ask Montrezl Harrell, what's it like having not been in Louisville for so long, being back here? David Johnson, what's it like having been a star and making a decision to go pro early? And maybe that's the wrong decision. There's been a lot of really good questions. I can't wait to be in the media room with Jay Scrubb. I have a ton of questions, but it's going to just be such a great experience. I can't freaking wait. We're just 3 weeks out. I believe the first game is July 19th on a Saturday. Our man, Alan Thomas, the newest co-host of Starting 502, will be out there as our kind of TBT czar. My wife, Taylor, did all of our content last year. We'll be out there. Presley and I will be out there at some point. Obviously, the folks from Mr. and Mrs. Bourbon are primary sponsors, so we get to get out there and see Russ and Cece and Sean and our team over there. I can't wait, man. It's one of my favorite times in the Ville, even though the fact that Freedom Hall is a dump. Sorry. I don't know if I'm upsetting anybody with that.
That is not true.
Freedom Hall is a dump, man. Get out of here. I'm sorry. It is.
Oh, man.
Now that Grant doesn't work there, I can say that. I have gotten spoiled.
You've gotten insanely spoiled. You should go. I'm going to take you. I don't know if you've been. I want to take you to a game. Oh, well, this is a perfect year. They play in the Fifth Third Arena this year.
Yeah, they do. Well, I think that game is neutral court, is it not? I thought it was. I don't think it's in
Yes,
Cincinnati.
but it's in Fifth Third. So they have Cincinnati has 2 arenas they play in. It's a bunch of bullshit.
Okay.
But either way, both of them not the best. Yeah. Not ideal scenarios. What I'm saying is you could go almost anywhere in the country. And because of what Louisville has, you're going to be like, that's a dump.
Yeah, I totally agree. We're spoiled. The KFCM Center and the other venues that we get to go to, we're spoiled. So, but you know what else spoils us, Press? Joe Tipton and Joe Tipton's news. He does a great job of reporting the game of college basketball. I would say he's probably the most important figure in recruiting, at least he's the Woj or the Shams Charania of college basketball, as I mentioned in the interview we're getting ready to get into. Tweet notifications is a special place for me. Okay, it's reserved for the Shams, for the Brady Broms, for the the major players, the Presley Meyers, the State of Louisville's, from the Pink Seats podcast. But Joe Tipton is a man that if he's tweeting something, I want to know about it. And we've been fortunate over the last year or so to build up a relationship online with him through State of Louisville and being able to, see news as it breaks in real time and, interact with him. And I'm stoked to have him on the show. This is 20 minutes of some of the best content we've done on this podcast.
Let's go. Joe Tipton, without further ado.
Subscribe
to us, and subscribe to Joe. Yep. And we're going to go live now. We are back for another edition of the Starting 502 podcast. As always, Presley Meyer, your host of the most. Jacob Lane joins us tonight, and a very special guest tonight. Perhaps Jacob has suggested the preeminent college basketball reporter. Definitely one of the more knowledgeable in the know guys in recruiting of Rivals and On3 Sports. Joe Tipton. Joe Tipton, how we doing, sir?
I'm good. It's very kind of you. Appreciate y'all. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
thanks for jumping on, man. I gotta say, there's not very many people that I have tweet notifications turned on for. So I want you to know, Joe, that I've got tweet notifications turned on, man. I'm up to date, whether it's 26, 27, the portal. You've been keeping this show locked in all summer, so thank you for doing that, man. It is a great honor to be able to have you on the show. How are you? Like, how's life? I mean, you're one of the busiest people out there. How's everything going?
When the portal was running, I was struggling. Yeah,
Did you get some sleep?
It was the most hectic off season I'd ever experienced, and it was mainly because that portal opened and all these players, these coaches, these agents all thought they had to get their NIL deals, sign their contracts before April 7th. Obviously, that came and went. So I think the portal opened March 24th or something like that. So it's April 7th. It's just right there. So it was just absolute insanity for those days. And, some of the money being tossed around for these players is just absolutely absurd. Even if I had to project on the conservative side, probably Louisville's starting lineup, they're probably all millionaires.
Hey man, that's a nice life to live right now. I mean,
definitely.
I'm in my early 30s, and I was just talking about this week. These athletes are making significantly more money than I've ever made my entire life. It is the prime age of college sports, man. So you're definitely keep this up to date. Real quick before we jump into Louisville, was there anything this offseason that any stories or anything that stuck out to you where you're just holy shit, that's the one thing that I'm gonna remember about this offseason?
That's a really good question.
Whether because I can imagine you saw a dollar amount. Let's just throw a name out, whatever, Denzel Aberdeen. You're like, holy crap, that's a lot of money. Is there anybody that, and you don't have to name names, but when you were just getting reporting and stuff coming in that just stood out to you as holy crap, we're in a different age of college basketball?
I mean, I think it just all boils down to NIL. You saw guys, I would say the second part of that would be you saw guys leave and transfer that you normally wouldn't see enter the portal, right? That's a little surprising. A lot of the time it makes sense. Okay, you're not playing, or you're at a mid-major and you're averaging 20 a game. You're going to go in the portal and get paid.
Right.
But some guys were leaving purely for financial reasons, which is fine. If that's what you're after, then more power to you. I'd have a hard time turning down some of the level of money, but I think just how high the numbers got, for players, a $2 million offer is if you're a really good player, it's that's common in the portal. So it's I remember when Nigel Pack committed to Miami, he had a very public NIL deal, and I think it was 2-year, $800,000, and everybody was shocked. 2-year, $800,000, and now it's that's your 10th man,
low end, that's your 13th man, your
I just
project.
think the amount of money that teams had to spend, I mean, it's just mind-boggling to think about.
It is in a world where pre-COVID, a coach could get suspended or a program could get in serious trouble for buying a kid a ham sandwich. All of a sudden now we're driving Maseratis. Yeah. It is a weird world that we live in, Joe Tipton. But tonight we want to dive a little bit into college basketball and specifically Louisville basketball. And I think obviously the major story for Louisville basketball nationally is simply it's Pat Kelsey. It's his energy, his rebuild of the program last year. But nationally, what was the cultural shift, the perception nationally on Pat Kelsey? And really kind of leading into this offseason, what was the momentum like for this program, especially on the recruiting trail?
Yeah, I think before the season started, me being an outsider, obviously follow Louisville, but not a diehard fan, right? I'm not tracking every move and I'm, observing it more nationally. It was okay, yeah, he's a good coach. I mean, he even said in his presser, he wasn't their first option. Right. And everybody kind of knew that. But you saw the team that he put together and okay, they might be pretty good. But at least from my perspective, I didn't think they were going to be that good. Top of the league, Pat Kelsey wins ACC Coach of the Year. For them to turn it around that quickly, I know it was, based on what they had been with KP, it was just a train wreck, to be quite frank. So I think anything was better than that. But for it to be just now, the public perception of Louisville is they're it's kind of if I'm a Louisville fan, it's we're on top of the world. We're right. Let's make a tournament run. Let's have success there. But just overall, just the regular season, the conference, we're doing pretty good. And then you see who they bring in this year, and you're oh my gosh, we might be even better. And then you see Mel Brown at USA Basketball U19s, you're holy shit, we might be a top 5 team. And then we might talk about a little bit later some of the recruits that they're on in the next class. Right? You're the momentum it's churning for Louisville, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but I mean, the momentum is especially helped when you have a kid in the class of 2026 who's the number one player in the country that's from Louisville, and you have a kid in the class of 2027 who's at the top 5, top 10, who also is from Louisville. So you see Louisville really not only as a program, but kids from the city as well. Joe, what did you think about Louisville in the portal this offseason? You were, reporting every single move. So as the Ryan Conwell and the Adrien Wooleys and the Ryan McNeelys of the world commit to Louisville, what are your thoughts on just how Pat Kelsey and staff managed that payroll and how they went out and got big name players from the portal to become somewhat of a maybe national championship contender in 2025-26?
Yeah, it's like, and I've said this to like other coaches that like have went up against Louisville in some of these recruiting battles. They have like an embarrassment of riches, like especially at like the guard spot. Like I can't remember who was first. Was it Woolly? I think Adrien Woolly was like one of the first big ones, right? And then you like get Conwell, right? And then I'm like, okay, there's still an Isaac McNeely. I thought they were like going to have to be out because like you got Mel Brown on top of him, and the others returning. So like the one that shocked me was like McNeely still decided to go to Louisville. Like, I thought he would Tennessee didn't even have a backcourt. That was the other school he was considering. Like, they had, no one. So I'm like, okay, he wants, a big role, like Tennessee, good team, right? And I don't know how Pat Kelsey convinced him and, the other guys to, buy into the bigger picture, because that's, one of the hardest parts, especially a lot of those guys are older, right? Conwell and McNeely are probably, I think they're in their last year. So it's to get them on board and, see that vision is so major. So, I mean, I'm very impressed with what they've been able to do. Obviously, I know they wish they would have held on to James Scott, and they went international and to bolster their front court there. But I mean, very, very impressive. You can tell that they knew exactly what they wanted to do. They got it done efficiently, quickly, and obviously very well funded as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Adrien Woolly, and that's a name that I'm super interested in, just because I think for Louisville fans, with Xavier just being just up the road, people were at least familiar with Ryan Conwell, and then playing against him in the ACC, obviously Isaac McNeely was a target for Louisville from day one as soon as the portal opened. Mm-hmm. But Adrien Woolly was that first commitment, and now you're seeing that he's popping all of a sudden as projections in the first round. For Louisville fans, I think if you ask the average Louisville fan that follows recruiting, they would say that there's no chance that Adrien Woolly is even a starter. Yeah, he's projected potentially as a first round pick. What are your thoughts on this guy?
Yeah, I mean, he is a very real talent, and I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but a kid, I'm an Alabama guy, not like an Alabama fan, but I'm from Alabama. Mm-hmm. So to see a dude from Tuscaloosa,
right?
And Alabama and Auburn were on this dude, they were on him, and for him to take a visit to Louisville, and I think by the time he left campus, he had already committed. Already told him that he was coming. So you pull a kid from the state. Obviously, I know he went to Kennesaw State, in Georgia his freshman year, but obviously a big time scorer. These other guys like Conwell, McNeely, he's a shooter as well. You've got some elite 3-point shooters on this roster. That might be the most impressive part of this. And Mikel's a great shooter as well. So it's they're going to put up a ton of points. They're going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on Mel Brown Jr. or Mel Brown, and that's the topic of conversation right now. Is we're all desperate for basketball. We don't have foreign trips happening yet, so we're watching early in the morning these international games with Team USA and their younger squad going up against some squads across the world. And very early on, Mel Brown Jr. has been the talk of college basketball. I mean, all eyes are on this from On3 to some of the bigger publications and publishers across college basketball. Are you surprised that Mel Brown Jr. has been this good? And in your estimation, I mean, there's been talk of him coming in and being potentially a top 5 player in college basketball next season. Do you see that, or are you buying the hype? What does Joe Tipton think of what Mel Brown Jr. is doing?
I really like Mel coming out of high school. To see him be this good this quickly is not super surprising, but it's definitely eye-catching, right? To see what he's been able to do against, some of these players from around the country, and for him to be one of the best players on a team with AJ DeBonsa and Tyron Stokes and all of these other studs, right? I guess I shouldn't be surprised because he's a top 5, top 10 recruit in the class, #1 ranked point guard, top 5 player in college basketball next year. I think a lot of the main thing for him is going to be just his strength. He's going to he's gonna have to get stronger. Like we all know that he knows that. Like all those folks know that, right? But like if he can, like obviously we'll have a little bit of time before the season starts. If he can get stronger and kind of battle against the rest of the ACC, then he's going to be really freaking good because he's the total package. He's got everything else.
He is, and it's incredible to watch because he looks like he's 12 years old. Like, no offense to him, he's got a baby face, but he will kill you on the court, an absolute assassin. Were you surprised at all, Joe, that he went to Louisville and chose Louisville? I mean, obviously, when you look at the national powerhouse right now, in recruiting, NIL has kind of changed things, but it's been Duke, it's been Kentucky, it's been wherever, John Calipari is, it's been Arizona, it's been, the national players. But are you surprised that so quickly Pat Kelsey was able to get into the mix with a top 5 player and get a freshman that, Louisville's had Samardo Samuels, Louisville's had Shaquan Aaron, Louisville's had 5-stars. That's not new. It's the fact that the freshman 5-star might come in and be an impact player right away that's new. So were you surprised at all by that?
Maybe a little bit initially. I honestly thought like more schools, like big time programs, kind of like you mentioned, would have pursued him. Like I think, Kentucky offered him. They had him on a visit, right? I think they based on like who else they brought in, kind of the timing of those visits, I think that he wasn't like their number one kind of like guard option, which is a little surprising because of how good we're seeing him being now.
Right. And one of their top guards ended up at Villanova late in the class too, that they had committed for a while. So, I mean, that's a really interesting decision by Mark Pope. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think overall I shouldn't be surprised because I think like the one thing that like players say when they like talk about Pat Kelsey is, well, they always bring up his energy, but just like how down to earth he is. I think he does a good job, and same with his assistants do a really good job of establishing those relationships. And even when we look ahead into the 2026 class, like they're on these guys early. A lot of teams wait until after their transfer portal roster is built, and then they start picking up things in May and June, July. So they're behind the 8 ball. But for a lot of these guys, Louisville has kind of got in there early, let it be known that they're a top priority. And I think that PK made it from the jump. As soon as he got the job, he was like, I want Mel Brown. And he went and did it. So it's very obviously he had some Adidas ties, definitely helped with that. Definitely encouraging to see that as well. But overall, I shouldn't be as shocked as I am. But obviously coming off, the lack of success that they've had, and just Pat Kelsey wasn't at the time proven to be this high major head coach, right?
Right.
But obviously it paid off in a big way, and I'm sure Mikel is probably glad that he chose Louisville.
I was going to say, so Pat Kelsey says that the most important thing in program history is the next thing, and so obviously the next class is the most important class in program history. Could it be led by Tyron Stokes? I think that's what a lot of people are asking here in Louisville. Local product. Clearly, you're seeing at the USA U19, he's a year behind most of these other guys, and he's standing out as one of the better players out there. Had a triple-double today.
Almost a quadruple-double, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the recruitment of Tyron Stokes, and then maybe just the 2026 class as a whole. Are there other guys that Louisville fans should be watching out for?
Yeah, Tyron is obviously a guy that Louisville's been on from the jump. Got him on an official visit I guess it was last fall when he was still a junior. So another way of them showing, hey, you're a priority here. We're bringing you in as a junior. We're not waiting until your senior year like Kentucky and Kansas did. No knock to them, but that's just how a lot of programs do it now, is they're going to be waiting until a little bit closer to decision time. But with Tyron, obviously a Louisville native, number 1 ranked player in the class. Those are the couple of the schools that he's considering. He's also looking at Arkansas. I kind of think they're a dark horse as well. He seems like a guy that Cal would really love to have. It's kind of hard to get like a good read on Tyron. Like he declines interviews. He doesn't like to talk about his recruitment. It's hard to like forecast like where he ends up. Right. Obviously, I know Louisville would love to have him, but I think it's difficult to kind of like pinpoint a leader, but I definitely know that Louisville is in a good spot with him.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, I mean, you have the connection to Tyron being from Louisville. Obviously, has not played in Louisville for a while, playing at one of the best high schools in the country. But it's a recruitment that you feel like you should be able to, with a little bit of momentum and that cool factor as well. And I guess that kind of sets up my next question for recruiting in 26 and 7 and 8. Does Louisville, obviously you know this better than any, there's this cool factor that comes with programs and this wave of, a program is hot one year and they're able to capitalize on that. How is the national perception with the recruits with Louisville right now? I mean, is Louisville kind of back in good graces after, I'm sure some of these guys were in 8th grade, 9th grade when, the Kenny Payne stuff was happening. But what's the national perception recruiting-wise for Pat Kelsey in Louisville?
Yeah, I think Louisville is relevant now again. I think these top players are truly considering Louisville, right? I think that's partly because of the success that they had in year one. But then also like they're getting good traction with a lot of these top players. Like Tay Kenny's another Kentucky kid. He's from Newport. Like, I think that Louisville's probably the front runner for him if I had to guess right now. Like, and even some of these recruiting battles are kind of fun, right? Because like Tyron Stokes, it's like Kentucky, Louisville, Kansas, Taylor Kenny, Kentucky, Louisville, and a few others as well. But these top players, they are like strongly considering Louisville once again, which is obviously, very important for Cards fans and exciting because in the past, or at least in the past few years prior to PK, they were kind of like, I'm not going to Louisville. I don't want to go to a losing situation. Who does?
Right. And again, I mentioned this before, but you have Tyron Stokes in the class of 2026. And then we just found this out this week. Like, this is one of those things that with Louisville basketball culture is so rich here. But Obina Ekezi from the class of 2027, I believe, also has been in Louisville. We haven't quite figured out if he's from Louisville, if he lived in Louisville. But there's another guy with Louisville ties. So you're talking about the momentum being perfectly timed for Pat Kelsey, a couple of guys that are familiar with the city. I mean, that's huge. Switching it up real quick, Joe, I want to talk international. There's been some tweets that have come out today, and I haven't seen anything official from folks like yourself or any of the major reporters in college basketball, but there's been an international ruling that has been kind of considered, and you might be able to kind of frame this a little bit better. But my understanding is that the international players that are coming into the class of 2025 that are going to enroll in college campuses this fall, like a Sonny Frew at Louisville, are going to have some draft implications and potentially not being eligible after year one for the NBA draft. Have you heard anything about this coming down? Is there going to be any impact maybe with a guy like Sonny Frew or, another international player in the ACC? There's a lot of them this year that have committed that maybe walk away from commitments because of that. What are you hearing in terms of the international impact right now?
Yeah, I know there had been some concerns with different, maybe not Louisville specifically, but some teams. Like I heard about a few international players, like they're silently committed to this school, and then for whatever reason they weren't able to achieve their eligibility, but another school was able to get them their eligibility. So I think there's this gray area, right? Like some, like North Carolina's got an international player coming in. They're still awaiting eligibility, but I'm told they're optimistic they're going to be able to get him eligible. So I think it's situational. I think a lot of it is based on their transcripts. And there's a lot of massaging of the transcripts for a lot of these players to make them not look like they have been playing
pro ball. Right.
It's just like, I don't even know how we got to this point, but we are, and it's cool, I guess. But I haven't heard any final decisions coming down the pike of, are these international guys going to be, ineligible or, Frew specifically, like there hasn't been any decisions made, but it's definitely something to monitor.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal for the ACC across the board. I mean, I'd say, half the teams have an international commitment, maybe more than that. A couple of teams like Louisville really dependent on those international teams. Go ahead, Press. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I was just going to say it's a copycat world in college sports and pro sports. Florida just won a national championship with a lot of foreign guys, right? And people are going to take a page out of successful playbooks, right? So. Joe Tipton, we'll finish off on this. Louisville, top 5 team heading into the season. Can we get the Joe Tipton stamp of approval?
Oh yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Top 5, yes, I agree.
I love it.
And what do you think, this might be a bit of an open-ended question. What's the ceiling for Louisville? I mean, a lot of fans are saying Sweet 16. Do you see this? I mean, I know it's really early to tell. College basketball is a weird game, but I mean, do you see this being a Final Four type of team, or what's the ceiling you think for Louisville?
Yeah, obviously very early. I think you have to make the second weekend. You have to make the Sweet 16 with this roster. Like, obviously, I know you get into the tournament, like you run into, a team that's hot or whatever. Like really good teams get knocked out early. It happens all the time. But I think expectations should be heading into this year. Mind you, of course, we're in July. But yes, second weekend, Sweet 16, potentially higher. I mean, I could see this team making the Elite Eight. I really could. But obviously only, time will tell.
He's Joe Tipton, On3 Sports, Rivals, the new marriage. We're excited. Everybody's, they're just scooping up all the talent over at On3. You can follow him on the X platform at Tipton Edits. And if you want to follow him on Instagram, he's on there too. Joseph.Tipton. Joe Tipton, thank you so much for joining us.
Guys.
We greatly appreciate it. And we hope you can join us once again sometime soon. So, all right, let's get out of here. Thank you so much, Joe.